If you're familiar with the systems of your RV, there's really no reason to take it to a dealer and have them winterize it unless you simply don't have time or don't have a place to park your RV at your house to accomplish this. It takes me about 20 minutes to winterize this RV, which is a truck camper. Here's the tools that I use for doing a winterization of my RV. Half-inch breaker bar, half-inch ratchet would also work, and a 1 1/16 inch socket. That's the size socket that's needed to remove the anode rod drain plug from my water heater. I also use a small clip-on tire chuck. I oftentimes will blow out my lines with an air hose and an air compressor. I dial the air compressor down to about 25 psi. I use this, which screws into my city water or my freshwater connection, and the tire chuck just clips onto it like that. And I also use this. This is a flush hose for my water heater. This isn't an absolute requirement, but every time that I winterize the RV, since I've got the drain plug out, I always flush the tank out. And then also several gallons of RV antifreeze. And when using a compressor to blow out your lines, dial the air pressure down to about 20 to 30 psi. To drain my hot water heater, I use a breaker bar or a half-inch ratchet and my 1 1/16 inch socket. I open up the compartment door, and I actually have the size of the socket labeled right there. The water is probably under a little bit of pressure right now, so I'll open the relief valve. And then I'll go ahead and remove my anode rod. Then I'll use my flush wand, attach it to the end of a hose, insert that inside the drain hole, turn on the water, and then just flush out the water heater. And something else that I do when I winterize the RV and have the water heater drained and everything is I reach back here. This is the switch for the AC function of the water heater. I turn that off. By AC, I mean the 120 volt AC function, so I turn that off so there's no chance of accidentally applying power to the water heater when the tank is empty. After you've drained the water heater, then locate the back side of the water heater and see if it has a bypass system, a winterization bypass valve. This RV does. It's located under the kitchen sink, and I have labeled this. This is normal operation, which fills the tank. If we point the valve up, that bypasses the water heater. Most RVs are going to be equipped with low point plumbing drains. In this particular RV, there's a storage hatch in the back, and these are those two drains right here. And also back here is a freshwater tank drain. And what I almost always try to remember to do is drain my freshwater tank from my last camping trip on my way home. That way, as the RV is going down the road, it's getting various angles and whatnot and draining out any water that may be sitting in the bottom of the tank. Open my low point drains, and then what you also want to do is go inside of the RV and open all of the faucets. And as I open those faucets, you might see more water start to drain out. This RV is fairly small, so there isn't much water that drains out once I open those low point drain valves as well as open all the faucets and also activate the flush lever in the toilet. At this point in the process, there's one of two different methods that you can use. You can find out if there's a suction hose for antifreeze. Usually it's located inside with a little valve that bypasses the pump and just allows you to suck antifreeze directly from the antifreeze bottle. Or you can also attach an air hose to a specialized fitting, which is this little guy right here. This threads into my freshwater inlet, my city water connection. So I actually use a combination of those two methods. I use this to blow out the lines, and then I do run just a little bit of antifreeze in the lines, at least enough to get some antifreeze circulated through the pump so that my pump doesn't freeze up. In this particular RV, my city water inlet is tucked up underneath. This is a truck camper. After I let this run for a few minutes through the low point drains, I turn those off, and then I go inside and open up all of the faucets as well as the flush mechanism for the toilet. My RV has a wet bath, so my shower is hooked up to my sink faucet. A little knob there. I pull that knob up and it sends water through the shower head. So I want to winterize that as well. What you may want to do is, if you've already drained your waste tanks, which you should have done prior to winterizing, is water that comes out in any of the faucets, let that drain into a little bucket or a cup, and then you can pour it out, and then we'll go ahead and do the same thing with the toilet. Then we'll move up to the kitchen sink. Single handle faucet, I'm moving it from hot to cold. That's hot there, and this is cold. In this particular RV, there's a step, and I lift that step lid up, and down inside is my water pump. Generally, your winterization hose to suck antifreeze directly from a bottle should be fairly close to the pump. So here's my water pump right here. This is the suction side of the water pump. This line here goes to the freshwater tank, and here's our valve. So if I take this valve and turn it this way, then it will draw water from this line here, which is coiled up. It's this one. So I can just uncoil this, pull it out of the compartment here, insert it into a jug of antifreeze, and turn on my pump and draw a little bit of that antifreeze through the pump and into the system. That's how a person would do it if they did not use the air technique that I did. If you do decide to use the air hose technique, it's important to run some antifreeze through the system to get antifreeze through the pump at a minimum.